Oh, hello. I see people are joining. Sorry, I think I was having issues. Really? I think I was having issues with the YouTube stream, so I'm not sure what it caught. All right, can you guys let me know how the audio is? Um, yeah, can you let me know when the can you let me know how the audio is, and then if it's good, we can slowly start. I see more people are joining. Okay, somebody says audio's good. Audio seems audible. Nice. Somebody says, hope things have gotten better for you since last stream. Yes, they have. Last time, things were a mess. I had an ear infection. My laptop got stolen. It was a huge. But now, things are better. I can hear properly. I can hear properly, and everything's good. And I have a laptop, and yeah, everything's good. Somebody says a little quiet but clear. I think I'm actually not 100% sure what the best way is. So if I go like this, is it gonna get louder for you guys, or is it gonna get quieter? Let me know, because I think I'm not sure if I'm going the right direction on this slider thing. I might have just gotten really loud, or maybe I just went really quiet. So I don't know. I'm actually not even sure. Like, there's a fan behind me because it's really hot here, and so maybe that's also interfering with the thing. Definitely got louder. Okay, cool, perfect. All right. Oh, poof. I waited 3 seconds, and suddenly there's 40 people in here. Okay. More people are joining. I think. Yeah, I think we can slowly start. Trying to think if there's anything else that I should be telling you before we start. No, really, it's really, really hot today. So, I'm gonna be just here sweating for a couple hours. If you see me pull out, my lovely little fan, to blow some wind in my face, that's why. But otherwise, all right, let's just start. Okay, so we're gonna start at the beginning with the first slide, which is Assault on Malhadra. All right, cool. So today we launched the Assault on Malhadra campaign. For those of you that don't know, Assault on Malhadra is a remaster of our old Grimdark Future Firefight All-Out Assault campaign. So basically, the way that it worked is that for a while we were releasing missions every month on Patreon, and they were just kind of like one-off missions, just randomly thrown out there. And then at some point we decided, like, hey, why don't we like as we started developing the lore more, it kind of felt like, okay, these missions are just thrown out there. Why don't we actually do something interesting with them? And so basically, we created what we call our new and revamped style of mission packs. So, what is a mission pack? So, Assault on Mahadra is essentially a book that takes you through the history of a conflict, the conflict for Mahadra, and then it basically gives you 18 missions to play through. And it's a remaster of the already existing pack. So, if you, well, first off, if you already had that pack, this is completely free for you. The missions were remastered. Go have fun. But the bigger thing is, like, so we added a bunch of story. The book is basically like half of it is story, and the other half of it is missions. And Yeah, half of it is story, half of it is mission, and basically it takes you through the whole conflict. So you start, it gives you a little overview of the conflict, and it talks a little bit about like the history of like how do we get to the point where this conflict starts. Then it takes you actually like through the timeline of like what are the things that happen. There's actually like a handy sheet that literally has a timeline of like day 1 and day 7 and day 34, and like takes you through all the events. There's a couple of short stories in there, and then there's a whole section about like the geography of Mahadra and like the different locations where you are going to fight. And then there are some spotlights of like very specific locations with like really cool images. Yeah, the book is filled with art. And the book focuses on basically these 4 factions that fight on Malhadra, and also gives you 4 heroes, which you can see here on screen. And in the book, we also talk about like who are the heroes and what brings them to Malhadra, and why should you care about them. So yeah, that's like the first half of the book, and this part is completely new, never before seen, story, art, all that stuff. And then the second half is the 18 missions of the Malhadra campaign. And yeah, there's different ways you can play them. You can play them as a chain campaign. The missions are actually ordered by the timeline of events. So if you play from the first mission all the way down to mission 18, you're actually playing the full timeline of the story. The missions have been improved since we originally released them. We tweaked some stuff. We rethemed a couple of them to make sure that they fit within the story. We reworked and revamped all of the background story sections of all of them. And yeah, lots of stuff in there. So yeah, if you already had this campaign, oh yeah, actually let me do something, which is I can post the link. So the campaign is live right now on Frontiers, and let me. Oh my god, I'm trying to pin it, but oh no way, they added. Okay, YouTube added a shortcut to emotes right in front of the 3 dots that I need to pin this message. So you're gonna have to wait a second for me to pin it. Anyway, if you go to Frontiers right now, you can go grab the campaign. What you get is, if you just get the basic campaign, you get the PDF, right? It's I think 40 pages or something like that. And then it also comes with the 4 heroes. So let me try and get all the names right. So the Blessed Sisters hero is Constance. Then you have Hadron, which is the dwarf hero. Then you have Echo, which is the robot hero, and then you have Swiftclaw, which is the Change Demons hero. And the perfect. Now I can pin it. It's not allowing me to pin my message. Sorry, guys. Let me just try and quickly switch here to pin this message. I feel like this happens every time. I'm trying to run these streams smoothly, and then these things. Yeah. Anyway, so boom. Bam, pinned. Cool. Nice. So you click on the link that's been pinned, and basically you can go grab the campaign. So tier 1, you basically get the campaign and the 4 heroes. Tier 2, you get the campaign and the 4 heroes, and you get some small strike teams, basically like small starter sets to get you going. This is for Grimdark Future Firefight, so it's perfect if you want to just get into the game. But if you want more models, you can get tier 3, which gives you basically like a starter army for each of the 4 factions. And then there's tier 4, where you get all of the models for all the armies. Like, it's a mega bundle, and I think it's like 650 plus models. Yeah, it's crazy. The models are super discounted, so you're getting them like 70% off, something like that. You also get bases, you also get game aids. If you want more stuff, you can also buy the Titans for all the various armies. We have also, learning from the previous campaigns, we have also put all the individual bundles that are all the individual items that are part of the bundle as add-ons for the same discount that you have on the main tiers. So if you kind of basically want to create your own starter set type of situation, then you can do it. You can grab the campaign with the 4 heroes, and then you can say, hey, I want this army bundle, and I want that army bundle, and I want this strike team, and I want that strike team, and then basically create your own bundle. And yeah, I think that's about it. The campaign is running for about 2 weeks now. It's gonna run for 2 weeks already. I think it's already quite successful. Yeah, we have almost 500 pioneers already, which is crazy. We just launched it, a couple of hours ago, 5 hours ago, something like that, 5-6 hours ago. Yeah. So if you've been interested in Grimdark Future Firefight, if you've been interested in any of these 4 armies, if you've been interested in any of our lore, if you're interested in playing more than just the basic standard missions and you want something really cool, Assault on Malhadra is for you. This is the first of this type of campaigns that we're running for a mission pack. We ran a campaign for a narrative campaign earlier this year. Oh yeah, let me kind of explain. If you got Secrets of Tashal, so okay, the way we kind of explain, we compare a narrative campaign to a mission pack is if a narrative campaign is like an action movie, right? So you're reading some story, you're playing a mission, you're reading some story, you're playing a mission, right? It has these action beats. A mission pack is more like a war documentary where like it tells you like what is the setting and who are the key players and what happened and where were the locations, and then you get to play like whichever missions from the campaign that you find interesting. Yeah, that's kind of like how I would compare them. Yeah, like I said, this is the first time we're doing a mission pack like this, and we'll see if it's successful. We definitely would like to do more. I think there's lots of things that we can do for the other games as well, for Age of Fantasy as well. So yeah, for me, this is just the beginning, and yeah, there's lots of stuff. There's lots more cool stuff coming. All right, yeah, click the link, go grab the campaign. Cool. Let's move on because oh my god, it's already been almost 15 minutes. Yes, let's move on to the next point because I have 40 slides in front of me. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions about the campaign, about the contents, about the story, about anything, at the end of the stream, there's a Q&A. So if you wait until the end of the stream, then you can ask me any questions that you have, and then either I or a mod will answer whatever you need. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So, all right. So moving on from Malhadra, let's go and talk a little bit about like website stuff. So we ran a community survey 3 weeks ago, something like that, 3-4 weeks ago. So every 6 months we run a community survey to kind of like get a feel for how are people interacting with OPR? What do they like? What don't they like? All that sort of stuff. And oh yeah, actually, let me take a note. I need to check something about this. So yeah, we asked people what they like, what they don't like. Which armies are they playing? What do they do, and whatever. Yeah, and whatever. We ran the survey for a while, and now the results are in. So you can go to our website and check them out. Since I have so many slides today, I didn't want to go like over the whole thing here. There's very too much things happening, but go check them out. There's a lot of interesting results about what type of games people are playing, what type of armies people are playing. We saw some changes and some shifts compared to our previous surveys. Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. Thank you everyone for participating. By the way, for anybody that participated in the community survey, this is super helpful. And honestly, like, yeah, sure, on the one side, it's helpful to like get a sense of the community, but also it's just fun. It's just really cool to have like all this big set of data that we can then show to everyone, because everything that we ask is public, right? So you can then actually see like what do people play, which armies are most popular, what type of content are people interested in, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, community survey results, go check them out on our website. All right, moving on to the next point, which is new starter sets. Yes, so coming very very soon in the next days, we're gonna have 2 new starter sets coming for our games. These are completely free as always. So there's a starter set for Grimdark Future and Grimdark Future Firefight. The starter set can be used for both. And there's a starter set for Age of Fantasy and Age of Fantasy Skirmish. And technically you could use it for regiments, but the regiments rules are not really explained here, so that's another thing. Anyway, 2 starter sets coming out completely for free. They come with 3 different units for each faction. So for the Grimdark Future set, you basically get Star Host, you get some warriors, some guardians, and some geckos. For the and then they're fighting the change demons, and so they have some warriors, some furies, and some screechers. And then on the fantasy side, you have Ratmen versus Plague Demons, and the Ratmen come with some warriors, some grenadiers, and some veterans. And then you can also see that Plague Demons come with some fury, some warriors, and some swarms. First time we're featuring larger tough 3 units in a starter set. I'm actually really curious to see if we get any feedback on that. If people, if people like it, if people don't, if it makes things more complicated. It's gonna be interesting. Oh, and they also come with terrain. So each set comes with 2 free pieces of terrain. I think, yeah, fantasy comes with 2 sets of like 2 pieces of forest terrain, and sci-fi comes with 2 pieces of um, urban terrain. So yeah, starter sets completely free. Grab them on our website, share them with your friends. Use them to introduce your family. Bring them to a game store. They're available for 3D printing. They're available for 2D printing. So everything you see is that you can see here is also available for printing in paper. So if you want to use paper minis, if you don't have a 3D printer, you can use that. Of course, as always, the games are minis agnostic. So if you have some minis already, you can use the starter set because you can use the starter set to get started. The starter set doesn't just include minis and stuff and the rules. It also includes a tutorial, a 5-step tutorial on how to play the games, and it takes you like step by steps. Like, okay, how do you move? Then mission 2, like how do you shoot? How do you go into melee? How does morale work? How do objectives work? And so it really like eases you into the game, which I think is very very cool. Yeah, so new starter sets, go grab them, have some fun with them. And then, these starter sets are going to be available for about 6 months. And then in 6 months, we're going to refresh them and have new armies and, new content. And yeah, so that's something new that you can find on our website. And together, in conjunction with this, we have also updated our website a bit. So we have updated our website. We have updated the Get Started section. So we thought that the Get Started section, it was working, but it wasn't as smooth and as intuitive as we were hoping. So we have revamped it. So now when you open the Get Started section, it just shows you straight. Before you had to like click multiple times to get to the free starter sets. Now it just shows you straight up the starter sets. So you have a starter set for Grimdark Future. You just click on download for free. Bam, it's yours. Then you scroll a bit down. You have the starter set for Age of Fantasy. Boom, click on that, get it for free. And then if you keep scrolling, you will then see the newsletter sign up. So put your email, click subscribe, bam, you get 2 more models. Honestly, it's just a bunch of free stuff. And then as you keep scrolling down, there's more stuff. So we have a section about the world books. So here, basically, we kind of like let people know that there are world books, and then where can you buy them, and you can get the free preview as well. Right now, there's the Grimdark book coming soon, the fantasy book. We will talk about that later. And then as you keep scrolling down, there's other things. We talk about the minis, we talk about the community, and all that type of stuff. We have also updated our game pages to include the starter sets, so it's even easier now to find them for people that maybe missed the get started section. And yeah, I'm excited about this because it seems like a simple change, but what it allows us to do is have a more modular approach to our website and to the get started section. So who knows? Maybe one day we say, hey, we're gonna do a starter set for Age of Fantasy Quest, right? That's something we could do, and it could just be slotted in here. Or we could do a starter set for Warfleets, or whatever other games that we have that are coming out. Yeah, and this is going to be very, very useful. And yeah. Oh, and also one big thing. It's now much better on mobile. So if you have a mobile phone, which I assume most of us have, if not all of us, it's now much easier to navigate. Before the site was kind of breaking on the get started section. Now, like, you can properly see it. You can go download, all that stuff. Cool. All right. So that was the website updates. So now let's talk about Army Forge updates. So Army Forge update number 1. I actually have 2 updates for you. So number 1 is base sizes. So one of the things that people ask us very, very often is, oh, what base size should I use for the what base size should I use for the models that I have? And we usually say, hey, just use the bases that come with your models. Don't worry, that it's minis agnostic. You can do whatever you want. But we know that people keep asking, and so we said, look, if the community wants to know, let's give them something that works. So we went in and we painstakingly updated every single unit in the entire game every upgrade that changes your base size, all of it has been updated. Literally thousands of units, hundreds of upgrades. It's crazy. It was a lot of work, and now it's finally in the system. So if you want recommended base sizes, what you need to do is you go to build an army. When you're in the army list building screen, as you can see here, on the top right, click on the three dots, and at the bottom it says base sizes. If you click on the checkbox, it will be activated, and from then on, under the point cost, you will see a suggested base size. Again, this is not mandatory. This is totally optional. You can use whatever base sizes you want. Don't feel forced to do anything. This is just for your own convenience. If this is something that you want, if you feel like, hey, I want you to tell me which bases to use, then we are now telling you which bases you can use. And yeah, and the system is really cool. Like, it not only shows you the base. So imagine it shows you the base that the model comes on, or that we recommend for the model. So imagine, I don't know, you have a Battle Brother captain, right? And it will tell you, hey, put it on a 32 mil base. But then if you give it an upgrade, which changes its base size, so for instance, if you put it on a bike, then it will tell you, hey, put him on like a 60 by 35 millimeter base. The system also adapts between round bases and square bases. So if you're playing Age of Fantasy Regiments, the base sizes of all the units are adapted for square. So yes, not only have we updated all the base sizes for round and oval, you also have an equivalent for square for all of them. A lot of work. A lot of work. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, all right. Next up, we have also updated Army Forge Studio, and we have updated Army Forge Studio with the new Army Transfer feature. So, this is something that people have been requesting for a while, which is basically the ability to have to make an army, send it to a friend, have them tweak it, send it back to you. Basically, you can use it to either make an army for someone and then just give it to them. Well, within Army Forge Studio, of course, so that then they can tweak it and whatever. Or you can use it to basically collaborate on an army, right? So you have your army, you've been tweaking on it, you've been working on it, and then you're like, hey, buddy, like, do you wanna help me out? You send it to your buddy, he tweaks it or she tweaks it, they tweak it, and they do whatever changes they want. They send it back to you, and you can basically go back and forth and send the ownership of the army. For now, we are not. We had thought about the idea of having armies that are like co-owned and people can work on them at the same time. A little messy. Not really sure that we want to do that. So this is the best next thing that we can do. So basically, it's like, whilst I have the army, I can edit it, then I transfer it to you, then you can edit it, then you transfer it back to me, then I can edit it. And so you go back and forth, and we don't have two users editing the same army at the same time. Now, how does it work? When you're in an Army Forge Studio, when you are in the army creation screen, on the top right, you click the publish tab, and now you will see on the bottom left, and you can see it here, you will have a new button that says transfer book ownership. So just hit on that button, and then you will get a new screen, which will basically say like, hey, put the username or email of the person that you want to send the army to. So ask your friend for their username or their email, and then you put that, and then you hit transfer. And then once you hit on transfer, it will basically show you at the bottom, a big box that says, hey, if the name that you put in was valid, then a book transfer request will be sent to your friend, and then your friend will receive the book transfer request, which looks like this. So you can see, wait, my head is covering it. Can I just shove this? Oh, nope. Can I do this? I'm not sure. Can I move it? Nope. Okay, there must be a way for me to move it, but I'm not sure how. So oh, wait, I'm actually not sure if you then lost my audio. Whatever. Listen, the other person gets a banner that basically says like, "Hey, this person wants to transfer a book to you," and then you can accept or decline. And then once you have accepted or declined, then then you have accepted or declined it, and then you get it. So if the person accepted, then it's sent to the other guy, and then whatever, you can send it back and forth. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, honestly. So don't we try to make it as simple as possible. We're trying not to overthink it. We hope it's really useful, especially now that we have different creators that might need help with army creation. That might be a cool thing where it's like, hey, if you know a small creator that would love to have an OPR army but doesn't really understand the game, you can totally create an army for them and be like, hey, do you guys want this army? And then just send it to them, and then they can take it and do whatever they want with it. And anyway, I hope you like the feature. And that's it for the Army Forge updates. And now, okay, but Army Forge updates. Okay, so frequent point changes. What is this slide about? So basically, we have seen reports over the last month and a half of people. I saw this especially on Reddit, and I saw a couple of them in Discord, but mostly on Reddit. People posting saying like, "Hey, I'm really upset with OPR. You keep changing the point costs every 2 weeks. I log on, the point costs of my army have changed. What is going on?" So first off, I'm really sorry. I don't know exactly what's going on. This is not intended at all. Basically, unless we are sending out an official patch, which is meant to change point costs, and so we tell you the point costs are not meant to change. And as far as we know, the point costs have not been changing. Now we know that there was an instance about 4 weeks ago when we published Age of Fantasy Quest, where some point cost changes randomly happened. It was a bug, and we reverted it. And so since then, the point cost should have stayed the same. But we have seen some people still say like, "Hey, my point costs have changed. What the hell? I'm really upset." I understand. So if for whatever reason somehow it happens to be that there is no patch and the point costs on your army have changed, please send us a report. Tell us, what is the army, what were the units, how have the points changed, right? So if you can tell me, hey, look, this was my army before. Ideally, if you have a PDF save, that would be great, right? So you can send me a PDF and be like, hey, this is what the army was like before, this is what the army is like now. This unit is cheaper, this unit is more expensive. Again, I'm not sure what's going on. We've been looking into the system. As far as we know, the points haven't changed. I don't want to make the assumption that all these people are wrong and they're just imagining that the points change. So I'm pretty sure something is going on. So please send us a proper. So please make something. Send. Please, if you have something like that happen to you, send us a proper report where we can actually follow up. Like if you just say like, "Hey, my points have changed," and that's it. That there's not much we can do there to try and understand what's going on. So tell us which army, which units, how have the points changed, and then we can try and actually look into it and find a solution. In the meantime, however, we are already thinking ahead, and we have implemented a new system in our backend where when we push a change or when we're about to push a change, it will tell us line by line every single thing that we change, so that we can double check once again right before we hit publish. We can double check and be like, hey, is something right? Like imagine when we did the base size update, right? So we were updating the base sizes. Well, now the system would tell us like, hey, all these base sizes have been updated. But if there was a random point change, it would tell us, oh, and this unit changed by points, which would be weird, but whatever. Then we would know. So we're already trying to prevent the next issues. But if issues still happen somehow, please let us know. Please tell us. I'm really sorry. I see these threads on Reddit where people are really upset and they're going back and forth and they're discussing and they're like, oh my God, why is OPR changing things like sneakily? Like, what are they doing with their points? And it's like, we're not. This is not on purpose. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So yeah, please have some understanding that it's not on purpose. And we're doing the best we can. So we are like I said, we've implemented this system. Send us any reports that you have with all the information that we need. So which is the army, what were the units, and how have the points changed, and we will look into it. We really don't mean for anything like this to happen. And I'm gonna be honest, I was a little shocked to see people say this because the whole point, one of the things that I promised after 3.3.1 was like, hey, no more updates until September. So 2 more months from now, and now I see people are saying that there were some sneaky updates, and I'm like, oh, like this is not at all the intention. So yeah, I hope I'm sorry, and I hope you can understand. Okay, cool. Now we talked about Army Forge and we talked about updates. So now let's talk about an actual intended update. So I think last week or so. Yes, I think it was last week. Whatever. Recently, also updated Age of Fantasy Quest. It's now in version, I think 43. For those that don't know, Age of Fantasy Quest is our new quest style. It's a skirmish adventure game for Age of Fantasy, or set in the world of Age of Fantasy. The best way to imagine it is like it's like Age of Fantasy skirmish meets RPG type of thing. So instead of having like war bands fighting together or fighting against each other, you can create up to 4 heroes. Your party of 2 to 4 heroes can go and fight waves of baddies whilst they're trying to, seize objectives, free a hostage, find some loot, stuff like that. Um, you get to create your heroes from scratch. So you pick an army, you pick a model. Then you can pick which class it is. There are 12 classes that you can pick from. You can customize some of the stats that you have. You can choose different skills. You can buy upgrades. And then you can go and play missions, fight enemies, gain points. Well, not gain points. Earn gold, earn XP, level up, further customize your hero, and so on and so forth. A really cool game, I have to say. Was in development for a long time before it went now into public beta. Really glad it is. I saw the community response. It's really cool. People seem to be loving it. Like it's really great. I saw a couple of people, of course, that they're providing feedback, like, hey, this doesn't work well, but whatever. But so far, I don't remember seeing anyone that says like, hey, I hate this game. This isn't for me at all. Like this doesn't work and whatever. So that's really encouraging. I'm really happy to make something that makes people happy. Especially like seeing a game that puts people together, that brings people together that usually wouldn't play together. So parents are playing with their kids. Partners are playing with their spouses. People that would never have played a war game are now like, oh, you know what? I'll give this a try. Um, yeah, so that's really cool. Anyway, what I was trying to get at is, since this is a beta, a public beta, we're constantly updating the game. I think right now I'm trying to update it about every 2 weeks, depending on how deep or how many changes I want to do. During the last patch, we made during the first when the game first came out, people said it was really really hard. Then last time we patched it kind of became a little bit too easy, and now we did another patch that kind of like brings things a little bit more together. And one of the things that I wanted to patch, or one of the things I wanted to change when making this is I wanted players to feel a bit more empowered. I felt like the game had a lot of moments that felt a little bit like, I don't know. It's almost like we're punishing the player, and why, it wasn't really working for me. And so we basically changed a little bit how hero skills work. So before, the way that it worked is you basically rolled for a skill, and then if you passed, then the skill would go off, and if it didn't pass, the skill wouldn't go off. Which basically meant that especially at low levels, when you're gonna fail a lot of your rolls. Um, basically like you wanted to do stuff, and then the die didn't go well, and then your cool ability didn't come out. So instead now it's different. The way it works now is you can always use the ability, and then you still roll the die, like you still roll your stat test to see if you manage. If you manage, great, you do the ability and everything's good. If you fail, you still do the ability, but you suffer stress. Stress is a core mechanic in the game where basically you can suffer stress from different things, like you can suffer stress to take more actions. You can suffer stress when, like here, when failing a test. You can suffer stress to forcefully pass a test. Like if you fail a test, imagine like you're searching for some treasure and you need to pass a certain test, and you fail. You can suffer 3 stress and just like automatically pass it. So basically, it's a way to give you more chances to do cool stuff. Um, and yeah, anyway, we're tweaking the game. I think the direction it's going right now, it's really really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing people's responses. So far the response to the latest patch has been pretty good. It's cool to see that a lot of the complaints that I saw over a couple of weeks have kind of like died down, and now people are just just kind of vibing, which is nice. I like it when people vibe with the games. So yeah, cool stuff. Age of Fantasy Quest update. I don't expect that the next patch will be exactly in 2 weeks, but something like that. So every couple of weeks, I'm gonna update it. My hope is that the patch, the beta period will end. Not sure, in a couple of months from now. So the plan right now is to release the sci-fi version in October. So hopefully by then the game is stable enough that we can say, hey, like let's get out of beta and let's just call this 1.0. And then have the Grimdark Future version. Yeah, because by the way, we're working on the Grimdark Future version as well, so that that's one more game in our roster. So we went from 6 games to we're going to 8 games, and we have other plans as well for more games. So there's going to be a lot of games on our website. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next thing. All right. Okay, cool. I think this is the last thing for the studio update. So, Age of Fantasy World Book. We've been working on it for a long time. We are getting to it. This is actually a slice from the cover art. It's just a little slice. It's not showing you all. And it shows like a cool dragon, and there's some sort of castle, and you can see actually like the Great Rift like cutting through the landscape. The Great Rift is one of the core things about the world of Age of Fantasy. And yeah, so if you have checked out the Grimdark Future World book and you enjoyed it, then this is definitely for you. It's gonna come soon. I cannot say exactly when, but it's gonna come soon. Not sooner than you think, but soon. I mean, I'm not sure what you think. Whatever, it's coming out soon. And yeah, you can expect it to be like the Grimdark Future World book, right? So it's gonna have an origin section, a history section, a section talking about Tyria as a whole, talking about the geography. It's gonna have a world map. It's gonna have a timeline. It's gonna have a lot of stuff about society in Tyria and like how do things work, how does trade work, how does travel work. It will talk about void gates and how those work, different planes, like how is the planar universe, the planar verse of Age of Fantasy structured, lots of stuff. And yeah, it's gonna be really cool. Keep your eyes peeled for what is coming next. All right. And I think this is it with studio updates, and we can move on to minis updates. Okay, cool. So, all right, let's talk about Shadow Stalkers. One thing, yeah, I wanted to have the cool shot with all the renders of the Shadow Stalkers, but unfortunately there was a little mismatch, and so I don't have the final renders. The models are not fully finished, and so we wanted to show like some work in progress shots, and then you can see, what's coming out in August. So first off, for the Shadow Stalkers, we have the Butcher champion. This is basically, well, it's the hero of the Butchers. It's a pretty beefy model. It's like a tough 6. It's bigger than a regular Butcher. He has 4 arms and to hold like this massive sword, and he has a shield, and he has a throwing lance, and he also comes with like a big mace. And we're still working on giving him even more options. So this is gonna be a really cool model. And yeah, he has like this really cool headgear, different options of headgear, like one which has like a head above the head, which is really cool. It looks very imposing when you see the guy. Okay, then we have the Tormentors. I think that's what they're called. Yeah, the Tormentors. And the Tormentors are basically the sort of sneaky, sort of ambushy, sort of poisony, sort of evilly, vicious unit of the Shadow Stalkers. As you can see, they're kind of like, their anatomy is different from other Shadow Stalkers. They're super hunched down, and they have all these sort of like weird, noxious, poisonous bubbles on their back, and they have these tails that are like scorpion tails, so they have stingers there. They also have regular tails if you don't like the stingers, so you can make them without the stingers. You also have a hero, not a hero, a unit champion that comes, or a unit sergeant, whatever, that comes with like a cool sensor. And yeah, I really like how they're coming out. Like they're really like, I like that they have this vibe of being low and stealthy, and then they're just gonna like, stab you. And yeah, I think they're gonna be really cool. I mean, we can see that they're gonna be really cool. Okay, then you're also going to get the Flayers, the Shadow Stalker Flayers. The Flayers actually are going to come with a hero. like a really cool big hero. It's a Shadow Stalker on like a Reaper on a Great Flayer. Unfortunately, I didn't have a render of that, so I can only show you the Flayers. And the Flayers are basically the cavalry unit of the army. The Flayer Beast, I think it's called. The Flayer Horse. No, I think it's like a Flayer Beast. Well, whatever. The Flayer Beast is like an evolution, essentially, of the Hound. So as we reveal more and more of the army, you're gonna be able to see like which units connect with which and which are kind of like the evolution one of the other. So that's really cool. So the Flayers are basically like the evolution of the Hound in a sense. They're much bigger. They're big like a horse. And then you have Reapers that ride them. The unit comes with tons of stuff. It comes with 3 combat poses. It comes with 3 with a command group. So you're gonna get a sergeant, a musician, a standard. They come with different weapon options. They come with lances. They come with great weapons as well. So yeah, lots of stuff for the Flayers. And I think, oh yeah, here you can see the unit sergeant. Very cool pose. I love the way like he stands back, and you can see that his Flayer horse, her Flayer beast, whatever, has a sensor also like in between the horns. And yeah, really really cool. He has a cool piece of headgear in the face, and he has like a great weapon, like a great sword. Yeah, I think this is gonna be a really really cool unit. And then finally, you're also going to get, so this is I think it's called the Great Horror. Yes, I think it's called the Great Horror. Sorry, the names of the Shadow Stalkers are all a blur for me. So you're gonna get the Great Horror as well, and this is also quite a beefy unit. I think it's like a tough 6 monster. And yeah, and you can see actually if you look at his face, how this is basically related to the Hounds and the Flayers, and also to the Great Flayer. And basically, it's like a sort of. It looks like a dragon, but it isn't really. It has like these cool, big, like ethereal smoke wings. It has a sensor on its neck. It can fly. It has 3 tails, 4 tails. I think it's 3 tails. It has 3 tails and has this really cool pose on the like standing on this rock. I think the final version actually has like an open mouth, so it's like yeah, very very cool model. And essentially, yeah, you want a badass dude to just fly in on your enemy and wreak havoc. This is your guy. Okay, and I think that's all for the Shadow Stalkers. So then let's move on to the High Elf fleets. So for the High Elf fleets, August is the month of the bikes. Basically, it's all bikes, all different types of bikes. I'm gonna be honest. Originally, this was not the plan, but then different things didn't line up, and so we ended up putting all the bikes in August. But I think it's still gonna be a very cool month of bikes. So okay, you get lots of stuff. First off, if you look at the bottom, all those bikes that you can see there, those are okay. It's a bit of a. I'm trying to understand. Yeah. Okay. So the bikes at the bottom you can see are the Acolyte bikes. So these jet bikes basically have the spikes, the sort of like what are they called? The elemental spikes of the Acolytes in the back. You get 3 poses. You get 3 bikes with 3 poses. They can be armed with pistols. They can be armed with the Acolyte spears. I don't know what to call them. Acolyte lances, whatever. Really cool. They come with different head options. Male, female. They have helmets. They have different weapon options. They also come with the pistols. They come with the spears. Yeah, really cool. If you want a mobile version of the Acolytes, well, this is it. Then you're also going to get, and we can now see it here. Okay, there's lots of stuff here in the middle. So if we look at the bottom, you can see 2 bigger bikes. Well, these are the heavy jet bikes. So the heavy jet bike basically is a heavier version of the jet bike. They're bigger. They come with a gunner in the back. I think it has like 3 or 4 different weapon options. So the gunner is just there firing like the laser cannons and shred cannons and all that stuff. The As always, the riders come with male, female, helmeted version as well. At the bottom of the bike, oh yeah, and I think the Acolyte bike as well. At the bottom of the bike, you can see that they have like a twin shard gun. And here as well, you have twin shard guns. And I think the jet bike and the heavy jet bike can also replace the twin shard guns for a heavy shard cannon. Don't quote me on that, but it's some sort of cannon. I think it's a heavy shard cannon or a shard cannon. So yeah, that's your heavy jet bikes. They have actually a really cool pose. Like they have these flowing capes. And then like you can. Oh yeah, and actually one thing I know I'm a bit all over the place because I actually kind of like these bikes. One thing you can see here is that the bikes can be tilted, so they come with a little stick that has a rounded tip, and then it comes with a rounded hole. So you can basically put the glue there, tilt the bike however you want, and then hold it in place, have it be glued there, and have your bikes be whatever with whatever tilt you want. Then, if you look at the above the heavy jet bike towards the center, you can see the jet bike strikers. So basically, it's like you have the regular strikers and you have strikers on the jet bikes. And so here again, you have three different poses. They come with they come with spears, they come with pistols, they come with swords, they come with, I think one of them can be upgraded to have a special weapon. I think you can have a killing axe. I think you can also have an energy sword. Some come with the regular sword. You have two different, I think you have a spear and you also have a lance. Lots of different weapon options. At the bottom, also, they have the twin guns. Oh, and here you can actually really see like the difference between the different bikes. So like if you look at the one from before, you can see that the jet bikes. Oh wait, I think I skipped a guy. Whatever, I'll be back to that in a second. You can see that the acolytes have the spikes, the elemental spikes, and then you can see that in the back the heavy jet bike has the turret, but you can see that the strikers have a different style of spikes which are reminiscent of the spikes on the backpack of the strikers, so it keeps the whole thing together. And actually, I just spotted, like, if you look at the bottom, there's so many bikes, I know. If you look at the bottom left and at the bottom right, you can see two bikes, and actually also right in the middle at the bottom, you can see three bikes that have a different sort of spike in the back, and these are your what is it called? Basically your hero jet biker. So again, comes with lots of different options: sword, spear, pistol, male helmet, female helmet, male head, female head, helmeted, um, and this is basically your hero on a jet bike. And then finally, hold on. Finally, we have okay, and we can see them here at the top. Finally, we have the actual jet bike protectors. So the jet bike protectors are the protectors on jet bikes. And these also come with lots of different versions. So it's interesting because they're the size of a regular jet bike, but they can kind of upgrade to be almost like a hybrid between a jet bike and a heavy jet bike. So you can see a couple of them towards the middle. That basically it's okay. It's the jet bikes that don't have any spikes in the back. Those are your basic protectors. And so they have their jet bikes with the twin shard guns in the front. They can have pistols. They can have swords. And basically, yeah, they're your fighty, your shooty jet bikes. And then what you can see if you look on the left side, you can see that there are some jet bikes that have a turret in the back, and these are the protector jet bikes with turrets. So it's like, hey, do you want your jet bike to have? Do you want your jet bike to have a bit of the firepower of a heavy jet bike, but not the firepower of a heavy jet bike? Whatever. You can have it there. So it's like a sort of hybrid. And then actually, if you look on the top right, you can see the protector jet bikes with snipers. So instead of a turret, the turret is swapped out for a seat, and you can have a sniper there. There's actually three versions of each. So a couple of them are blacked out because we didn't have the renders, but whatever, you can imagine it by seeing it here. So yeah, you basically have a seated sniper on the top who can then snipe on the go. Yeah, snipe on the go. I don't know how much they snipe on the go. I kind of imagine more that like they go really quickly, they get into position, the snipers fire off some shots, and then just zoom out. And yeah, so like I said, August is the month of jet bikes. All right, cool. So that was the high fleets for August, and then we can look at the legendary for August. Oh yeah, for this one again, I didn't have renders, so we're gonna have to check it out like this. All right, so the legendary preview for August is basically the Deinonychus diorama. I'm not sure exactly what the final name is. We haven't named it yet. Maybe it's gonna be like the Deinonychus hunting party or something like that. And so this is basically our way of releasing Deinonychus riders and heroes for both Saurians and for Starhost as part of a legendary concept. So what you're going to get with this release for the legendary is actually a ton of stuff. So you're going to get the actual diorama. The diorama comes in a sci-fi version and in a fantasy version. The diorama has cutouts that are made for you to put the actual Deinonychus in, so it can look exactly like shown here. But you could totally just use the diorama as a playing piece on your table, or you can put it on a shelf, whatever you want. And then each fantasy and sci-fi comes with their own Deinonychus units. So for fantasy here, you can see three of the Deinonychus riders. They're basically ridden by geckos. You get them with spears and with clubs. Yeah, pretty sure they come with spears and with clubs. And then they also come with a command group. So you're gonna get a musician, a standard bearer, and a sergeant. And you're also going to get a Deinonychus, a gecko chief on Deinonychus. So you're also going to have a hero. So it's the diorama plus the hero plus the unit, and that's just half of it, because then the other half of it is for the star host. You get the same thing, right? You're gonna get the diorama, you're gonna get the unit, and here they come with lances and shields, or they come with pistols and shields. Very classic star host gecko setup. And then you're also going to get the star host gecko champion on Deinonychus. So woo, that's instead of one legendary, we are giving you 4 additional units plus two versions of the base. So it's a lot of stuff. And by the way, just in case, if you look closely, we are not just giving you the exact same poses with the exact same ass and just being, oh, this is fantasy sci-fi. No. Each version, fantasy and sci-fi, gets their own poses, gets their own stuff. They look different. They feel different. They're cool. Don't worry. We're not here to try and basically sell you the same thing twice with just swapping assets. We're actually like putting some effort into making sure that they feel different. All right, cool. So that is the Deinonychus legendary, and now we can move on to concept art. Yes. Ooh, we're almost an hour in already. Oof, time really flies when you're having fun. But I'm gonna try and speed this up because I'm hoping that we can get to the point where all of these streams can actually end at the 90-minute mark and not keep going over. Okay, so now let's look at concept art. So first up, we start with the Shadow Stalker. So what are you going to get? This is for September. So we're showing you the concept art for the models that are coming for September. All right, the first thing you're going to get is the Phantom Champion. Unfortunately, it's a little squeezed here, but basically the Phantoms are they're like the fighty version of the Specters. So if the Specters, the Specters are sort of like magicians. They're kind of like wizards. They have their staffs and their wands, and they shoot magic and stuff like that. Well, imagine you have a Specter. Imagine you have a Specter, and they go the other way, right? They go the melee way, and so that's what becomes a Phantom. So they have lots of like melee weapons, which actually is very cool. I think they all have 4 arms as well, compared to the Spectre's 2 arms. So they're basically like they have an array of different swords. They're holding shields, and then they just go in and they just slash with all these swords, and whilst they protect themselves. And they're kind of ghostly as well. So like the bottom is like all shadowy and all floaty. Very cool. Yeah, it's a really cool unit actually. And so this is their champion. He comes with like a really big banner on his back and flowing flag, and very 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 cool. I have to say, I've seen the model and it's nice. And then you get the actual unit, which is the Phantoms, so the regular Phantoms. Like I said, they have multiple arms. They have 4 arms. They have all the different weapons. The unit comes with 5 poses. And then it also comes with a champion. I don't think it comes with a musician and banner. I think it comes with a champion that has like the sensor. And I think this one also comes with 2 weapon options. It comes with the lots of swords option, but I think it also comes with the great swords option. I don't remember exactly. I'm sorry, but I think it comes with the great swords option as well. Whatever. It comes with different options. It's very cool. Then what else are you going to get? You're also going to get swarms. Unfortunately, I didn't have the picture of the actual swarms, but yeah, you're basically gonna get a crew. yeah, a group of 3 swarm bases, which are filled with all of our cute little swarmlings, the fang swarms. That's what they're called. And they come with different objects. So like I think one of them has like a bell, and there's like all of the swarmlings going over the bell, and another one has like a banner. One of those like typical shadow stalkers like pole banners things, and they're like crawling over it and just like little piles of dudes. Yeah, and they're very cute. And if you haven't noticed, there's actually 3 types of buddies in the army. So there's 3 versions. There is like the regular version, there's a skinny version, there's a chubby version, and they're all slightly different. They have slightly different personalities, and that really comes through. And yeah, I think these are going to be really adorable. Oh, I forgot. Actually, I don't have a piece of concept for it, but in September, you're also going to get an army standard bearer for the Shadow Stalkers. This is completely new. We hadn't originally planned to do it, and then somebody made a really cool concept for an army standard, and we were like, we have to make it. So thank you, Samuel, for making that piece of concept. And now we're actually making that unit. And yeah, again, I don't have concept art, but imagine like a Shadow Stalker with a big triple. So the way that the banners for the Shadow Stalkers work is that they're actually like they're poles, and they have like this sort of like metal structure, a metal box at the top, which has the all the Shadow Stalker symbols, engravings in there. Actually, for those that don't know, the Shadow Stalker language is sort of like the Shadow Stalker writing is a sort of braille, because all the Shadow Stalkers are without eyes. So you kind of like read it by sliding your hand from the bottom to the top. It's, whatever, cool detail. And so the way that it works is it's basically hollowed on the inside. And so when they the way that it works as a banner is, like I said, they cannot see. So instead of looking at a big banner and being pumped by that, they essentially like swing this banner, and it generates a sound that kind of like keeps the whole unit together and tells them that they're together. Anyway, and so the army standard bearer is basically a version of that, but with 3 different poles, like with 3 different instruments of these, and then like they swing it, and it just makes this phantomy shadow stalkery cool sound. Yes, okay. And then what else are you gonna get? You're also going to get the okay, this is really cool. This guy is called the, I do not remember its name. I'm literally gonna check it out right now because I'm very curious myself now. This guy's called the Blind Behemoth. All right, so the Blind Behemoth is it's basically a big monster dude, bipedal monster dude for the Shadow Stalkers. He's like the size of a giant, so he's big, and he's chunky. He's basically somewhere between a terror beast. So the terrors are like on all fours. They're like, I don't know, big dogs or big whatever. Whereas like imagine if instead of evolving towards being on the floor, the terror evolved towards being standing, and this is what you get with the Blind Behemoth. So really big chunky guy with a big heavy weapon, holding a sensor, with all the smoke flowing, all the drapery and all that stuff. Really cool model. I'm really looking forward to seeing the 3D of it, and I think this is gonna be, yeah, I think this is gonna be badass. Okay, so that is the Shadow Stalkers concepts. Now let's move on to the High Elf Fleet concepts. All right, cool. So High Elf Fleets for September. September is actually the last month of High Elf Fleets because, as we already revealed in the last stream, in October we're gonna start doing the HDF. If you don't know about the HDF, go check out last month's stream. Towards the end, I talk about the HDF. All right, so what are you gonna get in the last month? So first off, you're gonna get the gliders. So the gliders are essentially our jetpack unit for the High Elf Fleets. Here we were still experimenting a little bit with the concept. You can see on the top right, there's like 2 different styles of wings. Originally, we were thinking about maybe doing this sort of like energy wing, and when we made it, it just like and so we decided to drop that, and so we have these sort of like metal wings that you can see on the right, and it looks really cool on the final models. And so you're gonna get the glider Noble, which is basically a hero of the gliders. The gliders actually come with like these interesting weapons that no other unit in the army has. Well, okay, that's actually kind of like the thing of the High Elf Fleets, I suppose. Like, each of the specialized units uses weapons that the other units don't use. Anyway, they come with these sort of like um, laser weapons and also like shred weapons. And so the noble glider is basically like the hero version of the unit. And then you have the actual gliders, which are the regular version of the unit. They come with, I think it's 5+1 pose. They're all made to basically look like they're flying. They're like tipping off of these like rocks, so you can have them hovering and stuff like that. Technically speaking, you don't have to put them on rocks. You could remove the rocks and like put something on their back to make them flying. They come with lots of options. They come with these sort of laser rifles. They come with laser pistols and swords and energy swords, I think. And then they also have um, a specialist in the unit that can come with a special version of the laser rifle, I know, and then can also come with, I don't remember. Whatever. Lots of weapon options. So yeah, finally a flying unit in the army to basically like wrap up all of the elves. And with this, all of the elves are done. But you're also gonna start getting the elementals. Well, start and stop, I guess. We're releasing all the elementals at the end of the release. So basically, as you have already seen with the elemental titan, and as you've already seen with the elemental avatar, that's kind of like the thing of the high elf fleets, right? So when, for those that don't know the lore, basically the elves created robots to basically help them with whatever running their society. Eventually, the robots gained sentience and split off, and the elves were cast out into space. And that's actually the robot legions. So if you see similarities between the high elves and the robot legions, that's why they're there, because the robot legions essentially are descendants of the elves. But anyway, once the elves go to space, they're like, "Hey, like, look, we're not gonna use robots anymore. We're only gonna fully focus on our magical and psychic abilities." And so instead of creating robots, what they do is they animate things. So they either build mechanical objects which they animate to, and that's what you've seen in the artillery piece and lots of other pieces where basically they have like a little controller that animates the mechanical thing on the fly. Or you also get they also create these golems, essentially these energy beings that are the elementals. All right, that's the big story. So that's how we got the elemental titan. That's how we get the elemental avatar. And here we can see the elemental strikers. So the elemental strikers, and you can see they have the magic core at the center of their body. The elemental strikers are essentially like the melee version of the elementals. They come with swords, shields, axes, and spears. And yeah, they look really cool. I really love the elemental theme and the elemental vibe that we have going in the army. I was a huge fan of the avatar, and I can't wait to see these guys on the table. So these are the melee version, and then you're also going to get the elemental protectors, which are the ranged version of the elementals. And you can see here there are subtle differences in how their bodies, how their faces are, how their shoulder pads are, and all that stuff. And these come with guns. Well, elemental guns, but they come with guns. I think they come with two different types of weapons. Um, I don't remember the exact name, so don't quote me on that. But yeah, this is basically your gunny version of the elementals. The elementals, by the way, are pretty big. So, well, you can see a comparison here with an elf. So these are tough 3 models. So they're about 50 millimeters tall, and they basically stand above an elf. And yeah, they're fully animated. They're fully sentient, and they're their own thing. And then finally, we get also the dun, 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 dun. This is the great elemental. So the great elemental is basically our elemental walker, so to say. It's tough 12. It's very big compared to an elf, and even an elemental. Like, it's almost twice the height of a regular elemental. It's bigger than a walker. So if you've seen the rest of the army, there's the walker. Whatever. The walker is bigger than an elemental, but smaller than the great elemental. The great elemental is bigger, but it's smaller than the elemental titan and the avatar. Okay, wait. So you have, in terms of height, you have an elf, you have an elemental, you have a walker, you have a great elemental, you have an avatar, and then you have a Titan elemental or elemental Titan. Anyway, getting lost in details here. And here, basically, yeah, you can see the Great Elemental. The Great Elemental comes with a bunch of cool features. It comes with different guns that can be mounted on it. I think it comes with guns that are mounted on its arms. Yeah, we can kind of see them here. It comes with different melee weapons, and yeah, that's about it. Honestly, yeah, I've talked so much already. Yeah, really cool model. I'm very happy that we're kind of like tying off the army on this elemental theme. Um, a bit sad to see the elves go. It's one of those things. It always feels like, oh my god, these armies they take so long to release, and then suddenly, there you go, your babies are ready, and then they're out. Oh well. Okay, cool. So that was the high elf fleet concepts. Then you're also going to get, of course, the legendary. Ta-da! All right, for the legendary for September is the oh god, what do we call this? This is the Blessed Sisters epic Titan Walker. So we released the Titan Walker, whatever, a year ago by now, maybe longer. And the Titan Walker is, it was a big. I think it was a loyalty reward at the time. I don't remember. Whatever. It's a big chunky robot, and we thought, how do we make the Titan feel even more blessedy sistery, whatever. How do we make it even more themed? And so that's how we get the epic Titan Walker. So as you can see, it basically, like we said, okay, we are going for the Blessed Sisters theme. So we pushed more on the feminine aspects. So we worked on the waist. It comes with a beautiful skirt. It has a female head at the top. And then yeah, you have all of these little angels that are basically like holding different parts of the thing, and which look really cute. It's basically the buddies that we added, to the army. And then in the back, it has the wings. So it's taken essentially lots of elements from different things that we know from the army, and then bringing them together. It's kind of like, if you've seen the procession altar, it's basically the procession altar version. I mean, whatever. It's kind of like the procession altar version of the Titan Walker. So yeah, it has the wings, it has the swords, it has some big ass swords. And actually, you cannot see it here, but at the base, we actually, like, this comes actually with a diorama base, which is sort of like an altar for it. And then at the base, it has this staircase going to it, and there's a bunch of sisters that are like praying there, and like, they're going up the stairs and they're doing their communion, and they're like, bowing, and very cool. And then in the actual cockpit, you have a sister going like, ah, and she is yeah, and she's a badass. I've seen this model, and let me tell you, this is gonna be cool. This is gonna be cool. All right. Cool. So we have waited long enough. It is now finally time for me to reveal the next fantasy army that's coming out after the Shadow Stalkers, and that's coming out in November. But before I reveal it, let me take a sip of water. All right, here we go. All right, so the next fantasy army is going to be the Wood Elves. So I've seen that some people already guessed that it's the Wood Elves. We have been throwing some hints here and there. I was hoping that they would be a little bit more subtle, but yeah, I saw some people that already guessed that it's going to be the Wood Elves. So oh my god, the big and small. So let me start by saying, okay, why are we making the Wood Elves, right? I think this is important to understand. So when we first started making miniatures for OPR, we kind of fired from the hip, and we were like, hey, let's just make whatever army we feel like making. And we kind of did that for 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that. And then what we realized is, like, we kept getting questions from people being like, hey, when are elves coming? When are dwarves coming? When are orcs coming? When are humans coming? When are all of these like basic staple of fantasy and sci-fi armies coming? And so we basically decided that for each of the games, we want to focus on the big five for each game before we start developing other armies. So what are the big five? They're the humans, they're the dwarves, they're the elves, they're the orcs, and then they're the big guys. So there would be for sci-fi your Battle Brothers, and then for fantasy your Eternal Wardens. And so these are basically like the armies that we're currently churning out, and like what you can expect to come next. Sometimes, with something else coming in. So like we did the humans, and then we said, hey, let's do vampires and shadow stalkers, and now we're going back to this. So whatever. But generally speaking, like these are the sort of armies that we want to work on. Now, about the actual wood elves. So I'm gonna start by talking a little bit about the lore. For those that don't know the lore of Age of Fantasy. So basically, the way that it works in Age of Fantasy, or what, how did things come about in Age of Fantasy, is basically that if you've ever seen the map of Tyria, I mean, look it up. I made a sketch of it, but basically, imagine like there's a central big plains area, and this is the area where most of the factions started coming up when they were kind of like evolving, right? There were these big plains. It was like a relatively safe environment, and so all of these factions were able to thrive and become bigger and bigger. And one of these factions that became bigger and bigger and bigger was the humans. And as humanity rapidly grew or evolved or whatever, before the other species started to slowly move away from the Great Plains, and they started moving towards different directions, right? So the dwarves went to the west. The orcs actually also went further to the west, and then the elves moved to the. Some humans moved to the north, and then the elves moved to, and actually some dwarves as well. Whatever, but whatever. The elves moved to the east, and the elves basically go in different directions. Like some elves go towards the Great Forest. So there's a Great Forest in the center of Tyria, or the top right of Tyria, whatever, north east of Tyria. Some elves go all the way to the sea and into the sea. Essentially, it's a bit more complicated than that, and they become what is eventually the deep sea elves. There are rumors that are some other elves that who knows what happened to them. Yeah? But anyway, so there are elves that then go into the forest, and so the elves go into the forest, and they basically meet the tree lords. They meet the ancient spirits of the forest, and they decide to basically ally with them, and come together with the forest and become one. And then and so basically like they ally with the tree lords. And then over time other things happen. Some of the elves see the human, how fast the human are evolving and creating their big empire, right? The great human empire, which basically spanned all of Tyria for like the longest time before the arrival of Havoc. And so those become jealous of the humans, and they want to build industry, and so essentially creates a rupture between the elves, and the part of the elves get kicked out of the forest towards the east, and those go to the coast, and the coastal elves basically become what we now know as the High Elves. So if you didn't know, this is kind of like a history lesson for those that don't know Warhammer, well, Age of Fantasy lore. And so those guys basically, they're in the coast, they're the High Elves, and then there are those that remain in the forest, and these are the Wood Elves. Then eventually the Havoc arrives, they sort of fight, this whole thing. There's a great alliance, whatever, and Havoc gets enshrined, and Shrine gets entrapped, whatever. And then everybody kind of splits again. And the Wood Elves basically, they, during this entire time, the Wood Elves evolve into, what they became today. And so we essentially split the Wood Elves into 5 major groups. And I'm going to take you through all the groups now, so you have an idea of how they're organized. So what you can see at the top is the Glade elves. So basically the elves that live in sort of like the forest cities, the they're not cities, but let's say in the more settlements, in stuff like that. Those are the Glade, part of the Glade section of the elves. So they're a little bit more um I don't know, civilized. It's not that the rest are not civilized, but like they're the ones that are more traditional army, whatever. One thing that's important to understand is we didn't want, so because the High Elves really focused on industry and metalworking and all that stuff. The Wood Elves were kind of like finding their own way to to develop their own armor and weapons and clothing and all that stuff without harming nature, right? They're really doing everything in conjunction with nature. And so the main theme of the glade section is that their conjunction is with the insects. In this case, we chose the beetle and generally as the theme, but this can evolve over time. But basically, they use the insects. So basically, they grow, they nurture, and they develop these insects from which then they can take. I think it's called chitin. I'm not exactly sure, but from which they basically are able to take pieces and create armor. And so these have very much a beetle theme. So um, you can see on the top left, like the glade leader, you can see his shield, you can see the weapon, you can see the helmet that they have. And generally speaking, so these are your main line part of the army is the glade, which is sort of like beetle themed. All the way on the right, you can see the giant beetle. This is a completely new unit that is not in the game yet. There is a sort of a version of it in the game right now, is like a hero mount, but this is becoming its own thing. Imagine like the Triceratops, but for the Wood Elves. Then we have the Grove. The Grove are the elves that live. They live in the more. They live, let's say, somewhere between the the more city part of it. Again, city is a big word. The settlements and the more foresty, whatever explored parts of the forest. And this is basically the Grove section. And the Grove section focuses on they're using less armor. They're focusing on more specialized weapons. They have a sort of like a very magical, a very strong connection to magic, and um, they have a strong connection to magic, and they basically have like all these very special like magical weapons that they use. And their theme is a bit more one of deers. So they have antlers, and they use steeds, like deer steeds or whatever. And you can see here a bunch of units that are part of the thing. By the way, I just realized this is sort of like an older lineup. There is new units in here that are currently not being shown, or well, units that are a bit different. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So that's kind of like the theme of the Grove, and then all the way to the right you can see the dragon. So that one's gonna be real cool. And then we have we have all the regular stuff. We have a couple heroes, we have the Rangers, we have the Forest Watch, we have the Deer Riders, we have the Lancers. So this is like your already more specialized part of the army. And then we go into the wild. These are the elves that don't even want to be there. They're fully in communion. They're fully together with nature. They don't want to have anything to do. I mean, not anything, but whatever. They're not that closely related to the glade. They don't want to be in the settlements. They want to be fully wild. And here we thought, hey, let's go for the theme of the owl, right? So we were looking for an animal that could be essentially like their mascot or their buddy. So, the buddy for the Wood Elves is the owl. I think that's going to be really cute. And so basically, they have this owl theme. So you can see the dance master and like the war dancers. They have these owl masks. The spell weaver, which is like their wizard, also has like this whole owl theme to it. This is where you get owl riders. You're going to get great owls. So instead of having great eagles, we have great owls. And then you can also see the mounted weavers, which basically have this sort of hybrid chimera-like owl being, which we're gonna get to more soon, and that's gonna be very interesting. So these three strata of the army are sort of like what I would consider to be the core, like your classic Wood Elves army, right? This is elves in the woods, and so we have the more city folk, we have the sort of in-betweeners, and then we have the fully wild elves. But there is more. Like I said, there are 5 ways, because then we have 2 more. Well, actually, okay, here we have 3, but whatever. 2 more things, and then we have beasts. So we have the Eternals. So what are the Eternals? The Eternals are a completely new concept that we are bringing to Age of Fantasy. So the Eternals are essentially when a Wood Elf dies. Like I said, it's all about being together with nature and being together with the cycle of life, right? Like the circle of life, life and death, and embracing it all, and making sure that everything, what comes from the earth goes to the earth, and all of these type of things. And so what happens is when a Wood Elf dies, they basically they they bunch them up in like a fetal position, and they put them in a cocoon. And these elves basically develop and evolve. So the dead elf inside this cocoon evolves and essentially hatches as an eternal. So an eternal is essentially a hybrid between an elf and a bug, a beetle, whatever. And so this is a completely new concept. Honestly, fucking A, this is gonna be awesome. And so yeah, we have the Eternals, and yeah, it's kind of like a grimdark concept, right? They're basically like dead elves that are being like revived, into their own thing. And so we have the whole strata that is the Eternals. So you can see, in the center, you can see the basic Eternals. They're gonna come with lots of options actually, with like wings and stuff like that. Um, then we have different, heroes. We have the Spellweaver. We have the Elder. We have something here called an Eternal Horror, but I think this is being changed. So forget that one. But you're also gonna get like a big T6 style hero. You have the Eternal Riders, which are basically like Eternals on bugs. And then we have two new things. Well, one thing and then a new thing. So we have the Eternal Hunters. The Eternal Hunters are basically like tough 3 versions um, the Eternals. So they're basically like your big, chunky, meaty dudes. And they have all of these like really cool themed weapons. And one of their themes actually is like that they kind of use their own bodies more than others. So for instance, like they can sprout wings, or the musicians actually are they're basically like they have a sort of like arm extension that then has like these pieces. Their whole arm becomes like a harp, and they use that as a musical instrument. Oh yeah, every one of these 5 has different musical instrument. Dude, there's lots of stuff here. This is really cool. And then all the way to the right, you can see the Eternal Guard. The Eternal Guard is a completely new thing that's currently not in the game, coming soon. Well, coming in November, when it comes out. And the Eternal Guard basically is like a tough 6. Essentially, imagine like a walker, a small walker equivalent for the Wood Elves, and basically it's like a big. So imagine like this guy is like a big ass beetle that has like a cocoon of an elf right in the center, and so that dead elf essentially like pilots. Pilot is a bad word, but like the dead elf basically fuels whatever, animates the guardian. I think, yeah, I think they're called the Eternal Guardians. Okay, so that's the Eternal strata. And now we can see the final strata of the 5, which is the treatment. So now that we've spoken about, city, slightly out of the city, fully out of the city, elf that evolves into nature, right? We're going more and more and more into nature, right? That's how we are evolving here from top to bottom. And now we go all even more to nature. So now you're not even an elf anymore. Now you're a treatment. And so the treatment basically are um, they're essentially part of the original inhabitants of the Great Forest, which are the treemen and the tree lords. And so the treemen are basically, well, they're animated forest spirits. I would imagine them like a dryad, kind of. So they're gonna be really cool. We're gonna actually be able to make them like whatever. Yeah, they're gonna be really cool. The treemen rely much more on their own bodies, so they usually use like claws. They have these sort of oh yeah, we're adding some new stuff, so you're gonna get treemen that can basically shoot. So they have these sort of crystals that they can like. They're basically, imagine like their arm is like made of wood, and then like their hand is made of vines, and then those vines can basically like grab and mold with other things to create new, sorry, my nose is super itchy, to create new type of weapons. So they can meld, for instance, whatever. They can combine with like a heavy rock, and then it becomes almost like a hammer, or they can combine with these crystals and it becomes like a magic pulse. So yeah, we have the treemen, we have a hero for them, 2 heroes for them. You have the Elder and the Wraith, which is basically their wizard. And then we have the treemen brutes. This is their tough 3 units. So this is like, they're big and chunky, and they're smashy. It's like Hulk smash, but for Wood Elves. And then we have the tree giant. So the tree giant, well, big giant tree. Yeah, one of the cool things about the treemen is we made them with fully they have fully developed faces and heads. They're like dryads. But most of them actually, well, kind of like we kind of like separate them into two categories: the more magical ones, and those are like they have their face exposed and you can see them and they're beautiful, and the male ones have like big beards and stuff like that. And then you have the more melee versions, and those take kind of like the so if the Grove elves take the antlers and right the horns from a deer to put them like on their own heads, these guys actually take the full head of the deer. There's actually some sort of mythical monster that looks like this, which basically has like a deer, uses a deer head like as a mask, and so then you have this like really cool tree man with like this mask. Um, yeah, really cool. I have to say it's very cool that like if you look at the army on the surface, it looks like dreamy and fantasy and elfy and whatever. But actually, there's a lot of like different like grimmer, darker elements in the army. And then finally, if we look all the way down, we can see the beasts, and these are actually creatures of the forest. So on the left, we have the great owls. The great owls are, basically our version of the great eagles. So, if you want to have a great eagle equivalent, here's a great owl. Then in the middle, you have the owl chimera, completely new, completely original, completely ours. And the owl chimera is basically, well, you've seen before that we showed the whatever they're called, they're rider weavers, whatever. And this is basically like the bigger version, like the full version of the owl chimera. And then on the right you can see I don't remember what it's called. It's the forest spirit, the forest ancient, and basically the forest ancient. I This picture does not make it the size. It does not make its size justice, because this guy is actually like, it's a tough 24. This guy is enormous. This is like your imagine like a dread, like the dread behemoth from the Saurians. Well, this is like the wood elf version of it. So it's massive. It's a really massive. It's a really massive beast, and it's probably going to be like a legendary or a loyalty reward. It's just so big. So yeah, that's also a completely new unit coming to the army, and with this, we've gone through the whole army. The Wood Elves are going to be a big release. I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of models. There's a lot of stuff, and even if we try to cram, as many models as we can into a month, it's going to be big. So, we're expecting it to be at least a 7-month release. I don't think we're going to be able to do it as a 6-month release. So, it's going to take a while, but I think it's going to be totally worth it. And one thing that I really like about it is also that you can basically combine the aspects that you like the most, right? So you can say like, well, I'm not really into the Eternals, but I love the Treemen. Well, you can make your Wood Elves with Treemen. You don't have to make Eternals, right? Or maybe you say, dude, I love the Eternals and the Treemen. I don't want no elf in my army. You can totally do it. Just combine the Eternals and the Treemen, and essentially like create your own little sub faction. Yeah, cool. Woo! All right. This was a long one, but we still. I'm right at the 90-minute mark. We still have the final part, which is the Q&A. So I am now going to go into the questions thing that we posted before the stream, which basically gives us all the questions that people have asked before the stream. Am I making any sense? Whatever. People ask questions before the stream. I'm going to go and check them out and answer. There's about 10 questions there for me to answer. This is a Q&A, so I'm going to go through all those questions, and after that, I'm going to go back and check out your comments, your questions in the comments. So if you have any questions for me, now is the time to ask them whilst I go and answer those other questions. Hold on, let me take a sip of water. Okay, so all right, question number 1. With the exciting arrival of Age of Fantasy Quest, will we see generic monster models released? And could they form an extra official army book? Giant spiders, gelatinous cubes, etc. We have no plans for anything like that right now. Honestly, there are so many people that make generic monsters. It feels a bit like a waste to do it for us right now when we could focus on other things like, the Wood Elves or the HDF or whatever other cool army that we want to make. It is something I've thought about. I don't know. Maybe one day. Right now, there are no plans for it. Somebody asks, I'm a patron member. What tier is there for me in the Assault on Malhadra Frontier? So it depends on what you already have. Assuming that you're a patron that doesn't have anything yet, well, basically go in and grab whatever tier makes most sense for you, right? So if you want to have, if you want to have all 4 armies, like everything there is, you go for the mega all-in tier. If you want to go for only specific armies, then maybe you want to get the Heroes of Malhadra, which is the first tier, which gives you the campaign plus the 4 heroes, and then you want to get armies as an add-on. It really, really depends on what you have. If you're a patron that already has everything, just go for the basic tier 1, which is just like $9, and it gives you the heroes and the campaign. $9 in early bird, and then it's gonna be 10 afterwards. I think so. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, if you already have the armies, you do that. If you don't, basically either grab the big bundles or create essentially your own combo for whatever works for you. What are your thoughts on producing paper models for the simple vehicles in each faction that are similar to your paper terrain boxes? I'm not sure. Honestly, we are not paper craft experts, and the amount of people that use paper miniatures is small enough that we don't want to put too many resources into that right now. I know people want vehicles in papercraft. Maybe one day we'll do it. No promises. It's I don't know. It's a bit complex, and yeah, not something that we're really super interested in. Like for us, what makes sense with the paper miniatures is to basically give you an intro to wargaming. Like, hey, come in. You can get as much of these armies as possible without the big stuff that's not really going to work in papercraft, and you can get playing. You can have fun. You can play. Really, you could play forever with just that stuff. But if you're looking for the bigger stuff, if you're looking for vehicles, if you're looking for big monsters, it's going to be hard for us to make those in paper, at least for now. Would you consider making starter sets for skirmish and firefight specifically with physical minis? So we have smaller starter sets, quick start sets, whatever you call them, on like these bundles on. Well, we had bundle. Sorry, there's been a bit of confusion with the bundles lately. Let me ask the actual question. Let me answer the actual question that you asked. Would I consider making them? Yes. How exactly would they work in physical? I'm not sure. They could be a mix of models. They could be smaller bundles like we did before. Unclear. But it's definitely something we would consider to make like skirmish / firefight specific starter sets for physical minis. Have you considered sponsoring the Yogscast Games Night channel? I feel like that might be a good way to spread the word. A lot of people are interested in to a lot of people who are already interested in tabletop RPGs and wargaming. We actually were in contact with the people from Yogscast, whatever, with the Games Night channel. It was a while ago by now, and at the time they said, "Hey, we're gonna check out your games," and that's about it. It never went really any further than that. So who knows? Maybe one day we can talk to them again, and maybe they're interested in doing something. But it needs to make sense for them. Maybe they're not really that interested in OPR. I'm not sure. But if they're interested, I mean, could be cool. Okay. A bit of a longer question. I'm going to try and make it short. Regen seems to be a mechanic that is hard to balance while still feeling fun. What do you think about changing it to, if a unit survives, heal D3 wounds at the end of the turn, and you can revive models that died that turn? We want to make and keep our game simple, and I think that having models constantly being added and removed to units is, whilst it does feel quite thematic, I don't think it's very simple. I'm not saying we will never do something like that. It could be interesting, but I do feel like it's a bit clunky of a mechanic for OPR when we're really trying to streamline things. So using regeneration as a replacement for that is what makes the most sense for me, at least right now. Is there any type of difference in the Human Defense Force robots? Since the last stream it was said that there would be no gender option. No, we currently still have no plans for gender option. Right now they're just robots. They're pretty much gender neutral. Yeah, that's about it. Have you ever considered creating a team for game design, rules, and updates? Kinda. So the way that okay, the OPR games are not that big that they warrant us hiring somebody that works on them full time. That is not me. You have to understand that me being the one that created them, that has been working on them for 10 years, means I am so quick at like I know the whole game's inside out, all the armies, all the units, and I'm super quick at like doing things. So whenever you hire someone to essentially like act as an additional help, which I have done before, their speed is slower, and which is fine, it's normal. But it also means that if there is not a huge bunch of work for them to do, then what eventually happens is like I just work faster than them and I just finish all the tasks, which has happened before. And so we don't hire a full team on the regular, but usually what I do is I hire individuals to help out with like, oh, we're working on a bunch of missions, or for the short stories we're working on when we worked on the Warfleets remake, rebuild, whatever, re-release. I hired a game designer to help me out on that, and he worked on the game for almost a year, I think. So yeah, I don't think we have what it warrants. I don't think we have enough content that it warrants hiring a full team. But who knows? Maybe one day, maybe if we keep growing. At the end of the day, OPR is still a very small company. I think one time we calculated that we are like 400 times smaller than Games Workshop, something like that. Like we're ridiculously small, and so we our focus is on doing what works and what has worked for us and what works for our community. And I don't think hiring a full team of game designers is gonna suddenly make sense for us. At least not for now. But who knows? Maybe one day it would be very cool. I'm gonna be honest. All right, next question. So I heard there will be faction books. When are they coming out, and in what form? When are they coming out? When they're ready. In what form? So we're gonna release them as PDFs, just like we did with the World Book, and we are looking into releasing them as physical releases. Like you can get the physical book, but that is its own process. So no ETA on that either. When might there be a model release for the Ratman Clans of Grimdark? When it's ready. I'm gonna wager not for a couple of years at least. Havoc War Clans. Future lore plans possible, not Havoc rework, adding to normal fantasy, not only skirmish. Is this a question? I guess I'm gonna try and go step by step. So I guess the question is, what are the future lore plans? Yes, so I want to rework the Havoc War Clans to essentially be, first off, unrelated to Havoc Wars and stuff like that. I want to tie them more to our actual lore. And so in our lore, there's actually a place. There's actually a plane that has a place called the Planar City. And the Planar City is like, imagine like this enormous fantasy cyberpunk kind of city. Like it has a different classes and different strata and like lots of different things going on. And so my idea is like, well, what if I take the concept of the gangs from sci-fi and I essentially turn it into gangs for fantasy, but it would be like guilds. And so yeah, that's the idea there, where like it will, one day will probably not be called Havoc War Clans anymore. It will probably be called, I don't know, Guilds of the Planar City, something like that. So that's how we would like theme them. And then I actually want to change how they work. Right now you just have one list with like a million upgrades, and it doesn't feel thematic. It's not that interesting. I think it's a bit messy as well. And so instead what I'm thinking is I want to basically create 8 to 10 archetypes of gangs / guilds, whatever. And then basically whatever models you have, you just find which archetype they kind of fit in, and then you just use that archetype for those models. So yeah, that's kind of like what I would like to do. About adding them to normal fantasy and not only skirmish, no plans for that. Okay, this is the last question. I have personally found it difficult to find a table that can accommodate a 4 foot by 4 foot area. I know that I could reduce all ranges distances by 3/4, Do you think that it would be okay to use 3 foot by 3 foot and not reduce ranges, or better yet, make 3 foot by 3 foot the default square size? No plans to change the default size, but as we state, as we state in all of our rule books, as long as the deployment zones are 24 inches apart, you can play with the regular rules on whatever size you have that makes sense. So you can play 3 foot by 3 foot and just make sure that there's a 24-inch gap between deployment zones. And then you don't have to change anything. You don't have to change the ranges. You don't have to mess with any of that stuff. And you can just play. Okay, cool. So this was all the questions that I had here. Now I'm going to go and check out the questions that were asked in the chat. All right, question number 1. Will Fantasy Dwarves be coming out next year? No idea. I genuinely am not sure. I think it would be cool. I will not say that we have not thought about it. But I don't know. I don't know. Are there plans for narrative campaigns in skirmish games? Yes, we are going to make narrative campaigns and mission packs for all of our games. For the regular games, which we call the battle games, for the battle games, for the skirmish games, and who knows, maybe in the future also for Warfleets. And we're releasing every month a new chapter for a narrative campaign for Quest. So yeah, we want to keep doing narrative campaigns and mission packs and this type of content for all the games. When are we getting the generate army button back? We are not. We're not planning on bringing that back. Honestly, it was a very, very rudimentary feature. It was just, it didn't really work, and very, 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 very few people were using it. So we have no plans of putting back an army generation button. Yeah, that's about it. Are there any plans for new armies not already in the game, or is that going to happen after we made models for every existing army? There are dreams of new armies that are not already in the game, but we have no plans to release those anytime soon. Is that going to happen after we've made models for every existing army? Not necessarily. Like I said, we're currently looking to cover like the big five, right? But after that, I think it would be cool to like switch back and forth. I remember at some point we had kind of established this sort of rule where we said, like, okay, for every 3 armies that are the standard armies, we release 1 custom army and stuff like that. Maybe we can go back to doing something like that. Maybe it can be, for every 2 armies, there's 1. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I have to say, like, when we started releasing the Shadow Stalkers, I'm gonna be honest, I was a little bit scared because the Shadow Stalkers are an army that doesn't proxy for anything necessarily, and so I thought, hey, maybe subscriber numbers are gonna start like heavy dipping, and so far it hasn't happened, which is very cool. It's very encouraging that even if we make an army that is not a proxy army, we can maintain subscriber numbers. That's very cool. So that encourages me to try something like that more often, where like we put non-proxy armies in the Patreon. Are you gonna react to the fact that I think the Wood Elves look awesome? Thank you. Any news on 10mm sculpts? In the works. We had a call about them recently, or we talked about them recently in a call. No other news than that. Are there / will there be paper minis for the Shal Malhadra characters? Maybe. Like I will give you a very solid maybe yes. We have some plans for paper minis and how we want to like restructure them in the future. Nothing fully solid, but let me just explain. So the way that paper minis worked until now was we released them step by step on our Patreon. Like one little random bunch of minis for, I don't know, Saurian bundle 1. Here's a bunch of random minis. Saurian bundle 2, and so on and so forth, right? And then eventually we would make like one big bundle that we did. But then now we're doing them free. And we realized that actually organizationally it's a bit messy. It's not really that great. The PDFs, you have to download like a ton of PDFs and then go back and forth and find things. And Then if you're only printing one color, then it's a bit messy. So what I thought about, I'm not sure, but what I thought about is that maybe in the future what we'll do is we'll have one big bundle for each army, and then within that you would basically have three PDFs. You would have one PDF for color scheme one PDF for color scheme two, and one PDF for black and white. And there we put the entire army organized by, here's all the heroes, here's all the infantry, here's all the cavalry, whatever. Like really organize it well, and then release those like as a big batch, right? So basically, it would change the structure with which we release paper minis. And I think when we change the structure to be something like that, then I can totally imagine that we might be like, okay, so the same way we release like one pack for an entire army, okay, now we release one pack for Tishal. Now we release one pack for Malhadra. Now we release one pack for the Age of Fantasy Quest characters, right? Now we release a pack for, not sure, whatever else is coming out. So yeah, that's a thing. Licenses, any news? I'd love to be able to produce some for the local gaming scene. I assume you're talking about 3D printing licenses. We have no plans for that. Are there any classic vampire weaknesses that apply to OPR vampires? Sunlight, garlic steaks, have to be invited in, running water, and so on. I assume that some of the classic ones for sure. Sunlight, garlic steaks makes sense to me. Not sure about running water and so on. But I would say some classic ones for sure. We haven't gone that, I don't think it's interesting because like when we work on the lore, we're working on a lot of the more, how does it tie into the OPR stories? How does it tie into our world? How does it, tie into with other factions? And I guess we just, at least I just assume like, oh yeah, they're vampires. So, sunlight, garlic, and steaks are kind of like a problem for them. So yeah, we never actually sat down and said, are those a problem for them? So I guess the answer is, in my mind, yes. Will it be like that once we release the faction book? Unclear. Compliment to Urfio. Do the vampires reproduce? Do they have children? Do they make new vampires? I don't want to spoil. If you look into the lore, you will find some explanation of how it works. But I don't want to go. There's some hints in there, but I don't want to go too deep into them. Are there any chance for OPR official bat reps? I'm not sure what you mean with OPR official. So there are some battle reports that we officially sponsor. That's for sure. I actually filmed a couple of bat reps for the Worlds Beyond campaign, which is cool. But if you mean like an official OPR bat rep filmed by OPR people in the OPR studios, the reality is there is no OPR studios. Everything is remote. Like we're all spread around Europe and the world. And so we don't have an office, we don't have a studio, we're not even in the same city. So for us to do official bat reps like that, at least right now, it's very tough. Okay. Why do some units not have command groups? For example, the Shadow Stalker Reapers, whereas the Reaper Flayers do have those options. Sometimes it's game design, sometimes it's a vibe thing. The Reapers did not feel like they would need a command group, whereas the Flayers did. I think the answer is as simple as that. As written, many, if not all, armies feel like the good guys from their viewpoint. Very good. Or at worst, morally neutral. Have you considered creating a purely evil antagonistic army other than demons? First off, the demons are not a purely evil antagonistic army. They're also neutral/good guys from their own standpoint. No, we have no plans for something like that. So the way that we want to establish the lore and the armies and the factions and the species and everything is like, hey, you're neutral. Everyone is neutral, and then depending on the perspective, they're the good guys or they're the bad guys, right? We have alien hives migrations coming into the Sirius sector, right? For the people of Sirius, that was an invasion, so the alien hives are the bad guys. For the alien hives, that was, they were just doing their migration paths, right? They're like whales, essentially. They're just migrating, and they're being attacked. So for them, the others are the bad guys. So who is the real bad guy? Who's the real good guy? To be decided by you, the player. And okay, let me expand a little bit. And to be decided based on the specific story that we're telling, right? So if you read the Secrets of the Shao campaign, you might say, hey, within this story, the Sorens are the protagonists, the Vinci are the antagonists, and we could say Ignacio is a little bit of a bad guy. He has his motives, but maybe he's a bit of a and we can look at Malhadra, right? You might want to check out the Malhadra campaign, and you might say like, hey, that guy's a bit of a bad guy, that guy's a bit of a bad guy, that's a good guy, up to you really, and up to the specific story that we're telling. For example, if you look at the way we're building the Age of Fantasy quest campaigns, right? Well, the quest campaigns are based on whatever the current release is on in terms of miniatures. So every army that's going to have a quest campaign is always going to be the bad guys. So this is a great example. In whatever November, who knows, we're going to start releasing the Wood Elves, right? So you might look at the Wood Elves and say the Wood Elves are good guys. And I will argue that, sure, the Wood Elves can be good guys. But within the narrative campaign for Age of Fantasy Quest that involves the Wood Elves, they will be bad guys. Or there will be somebody in there that is a bad guy that's leading things to be what they need to be for whatever. I hope this makes sense. Scrolling down. Will we see official OPR dice and faction dice anytime in the future? No plans right now. No plans for dice. Will there ever be a Regiments rules expansion for longer and larger scale games? The Regiments Advanced rules, I think, already has some rules in there for how to speed up your game so that you can play even bigger games. I think so. I'm not 100% sure. I know that there is like the rules for multi-basing, which will speed up the game and stuff like that. I feel like it's almost like a problem or like a matter of scale, which is like how can I put this? If you want to play with the regular regiments rules over a certain point size, you might not want to play that just because it's just gonna get slow and clunky. But if we finally end up releasing our 10mm games, then you might probably be able to say like, hey, I'm gonna use these rules which are made for massive battles with my 32mm miniatures. You will be removing entire regiments at a time and stuff like that. You will not be removing individual models. You'll be rolling different amount of dice and stuff like that. And maybe you can get the feel that you're looking for. But generally speaking, I don't know that we can even make. I don't know that we can make rules for larger scale games that actually work well without essentially changing the game. Not sure. To be thought through. As you finished work on Age of Fantasy Quest, will you now get back to the OPR small scale games soon? I am working on those in parallel very slowly. Right now, I'm focusing a bit more on the September update. There's some interesting changes that I want to do there. And actually, I think I've said this before. I hope this is not a spoiler. But actually, my plan is that I want to extend the advanced rules by a bunch, ideally. I want to extend them by a good, depending on all the cool stuff that I can put in there, maybe like a 20-page extension, maybe even like longer. I'm not sure. So right now I'm doing that. So basically, it's like I have all these cool ideas that I've been accumulating in my mind for a long time, and I want to actually like put them on paper and expand the advanced rules. So that's kind of like my focus right now, not the small scale games. Okay. Whew. More questions. Have you ever thought about a narrative online campaign where players could contribute their game results and shape? Yeah. Yes. We have thought about it. It sounds cool, but it comes with a lot of its own caveats. It's like, I feel like if we want to do it properly, we want to like set up a website for it. We want it to be interactive. We want there to be like a map that changes. We want there to be lore. We want there to be like a lot of cool stuff, maybe Army Forge integration in some way. Lots of like cool features. And so if we want to do it properly, it's a thing. And right now we're not focused on that thing. But I like the idea, and we can do it in the future. Can you release an equivalent to the Sisters of Twilight? I have no idea what the Sisters of Twilight are, but I will Google that for later. Sisters of Twilight. What are the Sisters of Twilight? I have no idea what this is. I'll have to look into it. Ba, 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 ba. Any idea when Warflex is going to get a dev pass? Another one of those that we are kind of working on in parallel. And to be decided what our priorities are. Basically, war fleets. I want to do a smaller patch maybe soon enough where like I just clarify a couple of things, but I'm not sure. But I would like to do a proper revamp of the system with a point calculator, which would then allow people to create their own armies. But that will require a much more substantial update. So I'm not sure. And there's a whole thing about like Army Forge needs to be updated for that, and you know, it's a whole thing. Aren't some of the undead factions evil though? No. No cheese dice. No cheese dice. Can we get print-friendly advanced rules? There are no plans to do that for the advanced rules as of right now. We have some ideas of how we can solve this. But nothing yet. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm actually going to take a note because there was something I needed to check about that. But okay, but no plans for that right now. Then, oh my god, I'm trying to get to the end here. Are there any plans to go through old armies to apply the thickening? I think it's been done for everything that we cared to do it for now. So no plans for more thickening as of now. Are we ever getting a cat-based army? Believe it or not, there are actually plans for a cat-based army, but you know, it's somewhere in the far future. I'll ask a question. A feign here. I don't know what that means. Are there any other plans to add a dungeon crawling system to quests or some advanced fog of war? I have some ideas for that, like using tiles and stuff like that, because I know people have them and people want to use them. But um, but I'm not sure when I'll do them, how I'll do them, and so on and so forth. Especially considering that it's still beta. I don't want to work on expansions yet before I'm sure what the core rules are. Whew, okay, I'm really trying to go to the last. Okay, last two questions. What would be the time frame for an epic scale 10mm game release? No ETA for that. I have no idea. Last question. Any idea when you want to do the Grimdark Future version of Age of Ice Quest is far off in the future? Oh, we already answered this last time. We are releasing it in October-ish. Basically, the idea is that when HDF comes out, you're also going to get Grimdark Future Heroes. That's what it's currently called. We're actually thinking about changing the name. So yeah. All right, cool. It's been 2 hours, man. Here I was saying that like, oh, I can do this in 90 minutes. It's been 2 hours. Thank you everyone for joining. There will be another stream next month. Not 100% sure when. Usually I would have done this on the 29th of next month, but I'm probably traveling. So it's maybe going to be on the 22nd of August or maybe on the 5th of September. Not sure. I'm gonna have to confirm, and we will make a post about it and let you know. So make sure to check out the website. Thank you everyone for joining. Make sure to check out Assault on Malhadra. Grab all those minis for cheap whilst you can, and yeah, have fun, everyone.